Yeah, I read this story about this killer who sits behind people in movies and stabs them with a needle right here. You die like instantly. Nobody even knows you're dead till the movie's over, and you don't get up.
It's so cool.
Baby! Oh, #1, let's do this, yeah!
Oh my God.
Oh.
I first read the screenplay and saw in it a story that I hadn't seen before. And one of the sort of the first criteria that I sort of try to employ is, do I want to see this movie? Have I seen it before? And I'd never seen this movie, and it really kind of sucked me in.
Essentially, the idea came to me from an incident in my childhood when I heard about identical twins who were several years ahead of me in school, and one of them was killed in a train accident. And his brother claimed to know the exact moment that he was killed. And so I took it a little bit further than that. So if you harm one of them, the other one actually experiences the same wound.
Lacking all explanation, authorities concluded that Joseph K.'s wound was self-inflicted. They failed, however, to address just how he could have known the precise location of his brother's mortal wound, or how both men happened to die at the same hour, miles apart.
Jeff had just created just such a cool story and such believable characters, and he was totally open to, all the ideas I brought to the table. Anytime I had an idea, he was totally willing to incorporate it, and he usually had an idea on top of my new idea that just made it, even better.
It's always interesting to see, what's in your head get realized on the screen, and he took what I put on the page and really just brought this incredible visual sense to it.
You okay?
Yeah. Got me.
Chris and John from the very beginning were in sync as far as the visual style of the movie.
I think people are kind of used to, when they go to see like a certain type of thriller, they're used to that dark, noirish look. I wanted to kind of do the opposite and have this real bright, colorful look.
From the very beginning, the first meeting with Chris was, I see this movie as red and blue. I see these two characters as red and blue. The sets were going to be certain shades.
Assigning a color to a certain character, and then having that inform the wardrobe choices that we make, and also the production design choices. When Aubrey shows up in the hospital, she's covered, they have her in blue gown, and she has blue sheets and everything. But then she starts claiming she's Dakota, and very slowly the blue starts going away, and the red starts taking over. And then by the time she's out of the hospital and she has more freedom, she dresses completely in red. The goal isn't that the audience will leave the theater and, be talking about how this color meant this or that color meant that. Kind of be like a subconscious clue to the audience that, wow, this is like, there's a real change taking place here.
I think we managed to avoid all those reporters.
At first, I was really skeptical about using HD, and one of my fears about HD was that the colors just wouldn't be rich enough.
I was really the chief sort of proponent of HD. A lot of the early sort of hindrances with HD as it relates to depth of field and cumbersome cameras and so on and so forth have been addressed.
It's all about having a DP that knows how to use it. Luckily, had a great DP, and John Leonetti.
This is a non-smoking house, young lady. And will remain one.
There really are ways that you can paint the film after it's been done that really affords you a unique opportunity to visualize the movie, but then as you're going through post, kind of re-visualize it or re-emphasize certain parts of it that maybe you weren't able to capture cinematography-wise.
And there's also little advantages shooting-wise that I found out while we were making the film. Like Lindsay, for example, really likes to, once she gets in a moment, just keep going. So a lot of times I would just keep the camera running, and we would just do like several takes in a row. You know, if we were shooting on film, we'd have to reload the camera. But since it's tape, there's 40-minute tapes, we can just let them roll. Action.
I like that he will sometimes just keep rolling and just see what happens. And so then I'll just start improvising and making up other dialogue, or sometimes I'll laugh because I don't know what to do. I'm sorry, Mr. Norquist. I know I should know this by now.
Watch this hand.
Ironically, it's the right hand.
Lindsay did a great job. It was really easy for me to work with her. She's just got an incredible amount of raw talent. It almost seems effortless what she does. I know she works really hard at it, but she's just got a very natural way of working.
It's fun to do the girly screams and get kind of scared. But I could see where it could be a little bit difficult conveying fear in certain scenes because you're with a crew, there's people around, they're talking. I think when you're just in the moment, it just happens. It's nice to get inside of the head of Aubrey because she's, you know, kind of manifests thoughts and is thinking about everything the whole time. She really leads the story in a lot of ways. Dakota is the second character that I play. She's been through a lot, and she didn't have anyone to raise her, and you know, she's had to go through everything by herself, so she's very strong-willed. She's not a quitter. She isn't afraid of anyone and doesn't take any shit, which I really think is cool. She's just like hardcore. Oh my God. My sister was there.
Lindsay provided us with an opportunity to not only raise the profile of the movie, but intrigue and interest other actors because of the quality of the work that she's been able to do up to this point.
Do you have kids? It falls away. And they always come back, you know. They never don't come back.
Susan is the mother of Aubrey Fleming, who is the girl who gets abducted. She then, of course, becomes Dakota's mother as Aubrey takes on the personality of Dakota. She's a regular Bob who works and does her thing, and I think has probably takes for granted the fact that her daughter will be there. So her journey is this realization that you can't always take that for granted.
Do you really think I would pretend to be a loser if this was all mine?
It's like a bad dream, sweetie. And someday, very soon, you're gonna wake up and realize that.
Working with Julia was just a blast. I mean, I'd been a big fan. She's a real perfectionist, which kind of made me step up my game as a director. You know, she was protective of her character and wanted to make sure that that whatever her character was doing made sense to her.
To see an actress bring that to life for us, like that anguish that that mother feels, really is quite an accomplishment, I think.
Watch this hand. You see how easy?
I love like how different actors have different ways of working because, you know, then my job is just to kind of figure out what each of them needs and give it to them.
The dark sides of human nature, even though you play characters, they're just not black and white. I think, but for the grace of God, there could be you or I, depending upon your upbringing, your experiences, and what could turn an individual to do something so dark.
deeper on the cuff, please.
A friend of mine recently said, he said, aren't you afraid of being typecast, play something like this? And I said, not at all, because I think they're normally very interesting characters, you know. So, love doing it.
Somebody come in here!
To play a character that has such an anvil of guilt on his shoulders over these last 2 decades, to finally have it fall off his shoulders and what happens to him and how, you know, he pays for it. You know, he's this great guy, this really fantastic person who thought he was always doing the right thing. In the end, he finally does the right thing again. But as you can see, the torture chamber that we're in right now, which is where I die, right over there on that table, in a pool full of my own blood. So yeah, I pay for my wrongdoings as a younger man, but I guess that's karmic retribution.
Jennifer Toland's body was found this week, and we'd like to take a moment of silence. Now let's get out there and win this one for Jennifer Toland!
We wanted to give the movie kind of a distinctive feeling as far as its location. We went to San Luis Obispo and shot there for a couple days, and then also shot for a day in a little town called Morro Bay.
Action!
Aubrey! Aubrey!
You know, we just wanted to create this small town that was really idyllic and would be an interesting contrast to the horror going on there. You know, it's not like the Blue Man is killing people in a big city like LA where, you know, I'm sure there's like 10 other guys doing that right now.
About an hour ago. The coroner's report been sealed. Sheriff Jennifer Toland disappeared almost 2 months ago. Serial killers typically...
We have one dead girl, and you're talking serial killers. You people astound me.
Another advantage of going somewhere outside of Los Angeles is that you find people who want to be involved in the movie that aren't so jaded to the movie making process. And that's why we could, you know, go to the football stadium and get tons of people from the town to show up to play spectators. And then it was the same thing when we went downtown, and, you know, we had a couple blocks of downtown San Luis, you know, all to ourselves, and it was just packed full of locals partying up. You know, like a couple of the bars stayed open, so people just were having a good time and, you know, got to be in the movie.
Footsteps.
I'm really looking forward to the opportunity of sitting down and watching it with an audience and seeing who they're connecting with, what they believe is happening in the story, because the characters are told, I think, from a strong enough point of view where you're not going to immediately know where this movie's going, and when it gets there, hopefully you'll be happy with it.
I think maybe from some of the publicity that maybe people have heard of the film, they might think of it as a slasher film, but it's far more than that. And that's what I liked about it. I think it's definitely a psychological thriller.
When I wrote the script, I classified the movie as a genre horror film, and I really expected it to be a genre horror film. And it really turned out to be something more. It's much more of a psychological thriller.
Sometimes people get cut in half.
Every time I was expecting a scene, or, oh, now we're going to have this scene, we're going to have the scene where she's abducted, or we're going to have the scene where she escapes, it felt like it had moved on to something else without delivering a predictable scene.
That's what attracted me to the script, is that it felt like it was about real people in a real situation. And, you know, that's what engaged me in it, and hopefully what will engage the audience as well.